But I am barely past being teenager. You're the one who is an old man. They grinned at him. A glare were playfully as well as fiancé on his face. You're going to be 22 soon. Still young, they said, energetic. They winked and then picked up his phone for the table, unlocked it, were trying to do so. You're funny, he deadpan. But Jungle leaned closer when they were still trying to fingerprint on his phone. He whispered in his ear, I can prove to you how much stamina I have, he whispered, and they stopped probing with the phone and slowly turned his head to him. Phone still in his hand, they looked in his eyes, or breathed away and said, Prove it. They mumbled, feeling the heat on his neck due to his own business. Jungle smirked and lifted his finger and gazed his jaw. How so? He asked mockingly. They licked his lip, ignoring his eyes, flinching there, and straightened himself up. However you can. They smirked. Oh, Jungkook said, and staring at him. They nodded his head as he leaned closer, touching his nose with hers, and looked in their eyes. They wanted to grab his neck and kiss him already. But, what are you? They said with laugh at Jungkook at him. His hand wiggled with his side. They shrieked and kicked his leg, pushing the table in the process, and above, tickling him. You're doing? Stop! They laughed and threw back his head, smashed against his face, whereas he could get his hand. He chuckled in mirth and placed his knee between their legs and stopped him. The young's ribs were hard due to amused laugh, and they helplessly gripped his hair and tugged his head back. Jungkook, they said, and his hands were tangled with the collar of his shirt and he yanked it backward. Stop! Bending his knee against the chest, they pushed at him, slipping back finally out of his hand. Jungkook chuckled, finally setting back, and they bent over at his ribs hurt, and he breathed heavily. Stamina, my foot, he donned, and they glared at him and jumped, landing on him as they gripped his hair and yanked his head back. Jungkook's hands were gripping the waist tightly to pull his hand away from his hair as he laughed all the while. Say that again, he yelped, and they pulled a strand of his hair, he knew, and dragged it in his rib. Okay, sorry, he gasped at her arm and pushed it away. Gasping for breath, they huffed out of breath and pushed his hair away for his face. Jungle looked as his chest rose up and fell down. He looked at himself and then they, before he burst into a laugh. They formed and looked at himself. His shirt was hanging off for one side of the shoulder. 3 buttons were opened. Jungkook's buttons were not even present on the shirt. They looked back at him in amusement, but the threat in the world made him hiss. They had totally forgot about the stitches. His head flew toward his head, and they went. Jungkook straight and pulled him closer by his arm. I'm sorry. Let me see. Does it hurt? He said, looking back the side of his head carefully. No, it's stretching, they complained. Jungkook inspected that injury and then settled back. It isn't bleeding. Thank God. I almost forget about it. Sorry. He gave them an apologetic smile. If someone walked in, what would they think? They said, formed at him, and Jungkook tore his shirt. Well, we are not we. He chuckled, and they glared at him, pulling the collar of the sweater up to his shoulder. They smashed his shoulder and get off the couch. Look, what we have done, they explained, looking around at the shattered papers and the mobile phone on the carpet. It's nothing, they. Jungkook tucked his hand and pulled him on his lap. Don't worry, give yourself a break, he said, and they gave him a look. Look, who is saying that? They leaned closer and looked in his eyes closely. Even your eyes are changing color due to lack of sleep, they mumbled. Jungkook blankly and placed the hand on their back. Yes, tell me, which color they are now? They smiled. They are, they said, and Jungkook chuckled and rolled his eyes. I'm flattered they. You noticed my eye color for the first time. He raised his eyebrow at and they smiled and poked his teeth. I'm kidding. Your sense of humor can pass for a 5-year-old I'll. He deadpan and they give him a flat look. Well, aren't you change? They looked down at his bare chest, blushing hardly. Don't you like the view? He smirked and leaned forward, his lips a breath away from him. They gave him a shy smile because he was much like the view. And he kissed him. They signed and pushed himself closer to him. Jungkook placed his hand on the bear back, avoiding that injury skillfully. They was the first to hear footsteps outside their door and jumped back, almost falling on his butt. On the process, there was a knock on the door and opened. Jungkook's mother was stepping. Oh, did I disturb someone? He blushed, color that hid his cheeks even though there was a huge difference away from Jungkook and his store shirt. No, Jungkook yelled and then cleared his thought. I was just cleaning the room. He started picking up the paper for the floor, embarrassed to the mother finding out about it. Okay, she said, if that's what you get call it these days. I'm sorry, I opened the door so suddenly. But Jungkook, your father asking for you. With that, she closed the door and walked away. They were red from tip to roots. They hid his face in his palms. The young senses of confusion and he sat beside him. They had asked him whatever he was thinking about her, but he remained silent through the car ride. Now he knew the patience were running out. Hearing this sign, reading himself to answer the question. Deong, where are we going? He asked. In the evening, he had fetched him for the house and take him on a drive. He needed his brother with him. When he took a step before he knew, he would stop him if he do something rash. To the woman who called herself our mother, I won't answer there. Why did she do it? Why did we do deserve that? He felt himself losing his temper. This death, he was not ready to face her mother. Now, not now, at least. They swallowed and looked at Deong. I can't do this, he mumbled and staring at him, shaking hand. Deong looked at him and the back of the road. It doesn't matter if we face her now or tomorrow. I won't answer thee, and so do you. It's her who need to be nervous, not you, he told him, and they nodded and remained silent. They wasn't ready to face his mother, but he guessed Deong was right in his sense. One day or another, he would have to face them. When the mention came in the view, the feel anxiety built up inside him. His heart beat for faster in his chest as he got out of the car with shaky legs. They had told Jungkook that he was going out with Deong, but he had not told him where because he didn't know itself. Deong was the first one who rang the bell of that house, and they felt that sadness would grip him. They had spent the whole life in the house with the man he loved so deadly, thinking that he was his father, but now he couldn't help but tear up at the thought he had never had a father. The door opened, and surprisingly, it was Jamin who opened the door. She gasped, her eyes were filled with a tear, and then she cried. Jamin looked from Deong to Tae and back to Deong before hugging him. She cried and cried, but Deong remained stiff. They stared at him, wanted to see some sort of reaction for him, but I expect for that tightness of his jaw and clenching on his feet. He said nothing. He remained still.